Turn heads and bring the hype with a custom hype chain from Lotwin. Perfect for youth sports, fantasy football, or just flexing your pride. Go to Lotwin.com, use the promo code TCCPOD for 10% off your order. That's Lotwin.com, promo code TCCPOD for 10% off. Get your custom hype chain and get hype with Lotwin. What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for October 13th, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Monday edition of the podcast. Let's get into Rewind the Weekend, brought to you, as always, by Philly Goat. Go to phillygoat.com, use that promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. Man, go to phillygoat.com. The weekend just continued the way it did the previous week for me. Apologize for being a little down on Friday, but I think, I don't know. I'm never going to come on here and do fake hot takes and outrage or whatever. 99% of what you see on here is 100% real. So that really was just how I was feeling. It's frustrating, and we'll get more into it, but the more of the same throughout the weekend for our Philly teams, my fantasy football teams, my bets, you name it, that it just continued to roll. But let's kind of put a bow on the Philly season. Obviously, we'll have more as free agency and things like that start coming up. But I will say this feels a little bit different than previous ones. I feel like in 22, it was kind of like, man, the future is bright. We're going to get back. I feel 23 was just more anger and disappointment because we had game 6 and 7 at home. Last year was 100% anger. It was just disgust, whatever. But this year, I feel it's different because it's more of like just a sadness that it's over, because it was a great season from start to finish. I mean, 96 wins is nothing to sneeze at. And they outplayed the Dodgers. They had more hits, scored more runs, whatever metrics and stats you want to use. The Phillies outplayed the Dodgers. The Dodgers just took advantage of the mistakes better than the Phillies did. And at any of those games, you can point to like one play or one at bat, or if they'd have just did this, it could have turned out differently. But baseball's a fickle game. It is what it is. And I think that's why it feels different. And we know that there's going to be changes, probably some large changes. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing Justin Crawford come up and actually get a chance to show what he can do. Hopefully Harrison Bader's back. I don't know what this all means for Kyle Schwarber. So we have some time to kind of figure it out, but it just is a different feeling. Like, we've been through this how many times with our Philly teams, and with baseball, it's different because it's such a long season and you invest so much into it. And when it's over, the finality of it is just boom. More different than a football season, more different than a baseball or a basketball or a hockey season. It's just the finality of it. It's just all of a sudden you go from every night knowing, or most nights knowing that there's a Phillies game on, to all of a sudden being like, man, it's over. And to know that you outplayed the defending champs, who are a good team. And I will continue to say that, like, I'm not taking anything away from the Dodgers, but if the Phillies had just played slightly better, who knows? We could be getting ready for game 1 of the NLCS tonight, but it's a fickle game, man. It really is. Some other news and things I saw over the weekend. The umpire apologized to Christopher Sanchez for blowing a call. If there's ever a case of why we need whatever they call it, the ABS or APS system, It's this. I mean, who knows? You don't know, and you know how I feel. I'm not blaming the refs, not blaming one single play, but certain things do change the momentum sometimes. But bottom line, hitters needed to hit. But the fact that the umpire is apologizing, that to me is the biggest argument for the robo umps or whatever anybody wants to call it. Um, Shout out again to Orion Kerkering, who 100% owned it. Could have avoided the media, could have just gone, but he stood there, took it like a man, said, I effed up, I sucked, this, that, and the other. Um, and he owned the mistake he made better than any of the hitters I saw being interviewed. I didn't really hear one hitter say, "Oh, we could have done better," or "I could have done better. I screwed up." Sure, some of them said we all could have hit better, but Kirkering owned it. So kudos to him. And I think everybody's like, he shouldn't be back. He shouldn't be back. And pump the brakes a little bit here because the dude is only 24 years old. And I think what we all forget, because I also forgot this, he was called up from basically like single A or double A near the end of that 2022 run and is essentially learning on the job training and being put into those high leverage situations. He's going to start building those calluses. And I think he's going to be better for it. I'm not ready to give up on him just yet because his stuff is that nasty. If he can just learn from this and go. He is only 24 and was thrown into it 3 years ago or 4 years ago, whatever you want to say, and essentially from didn't pitch in AAA. So he is learning against Major League hitting, and I would say for the most part, he's done pretty well. Dude's 24, owned his mistake. Hopefully he's able to bounce back from this because, like I said, I think his stuff is nasty. I think he's going to be a good pitcher, and I think this whole experience is going to make him better if he goes about it and does it the right way. But building up those calluses, especially as a high leverage reliever, I think we need to give him a chance because I feel like the potential, and he's just so good. And for being that young and to already have that many postseason experiences, I think we'll be all right. I could be wrong. But I'm not ready to give up on Kerkering yet. The other big news over the weekend was the talk about whether Rob Thompson should be back. Should he, shouldn't he? I can't put this season on Topper. I mean, I really can't. Sure, there was a laundry list of questionable decisions that he did throughout the season, but that could be any manager. And I felt that since he's been here, this is the best job he's done since guiding that team in 2022 to the World Series. So I think he'll be back. I also do think that there should be a short leash on him, depending on the makeup of the team, how they start off, and everything like that. But I would give him at least a chance to start the season. So that's where we are with the Phillies. Disappointed still, sad still that there's no game tonight. My sleep schedule appreciates it, but man, we do have some Sixers news. The blue-white scrimmage was yesterday down in Wilmington, and yes, I'm sure you all know what I'm going to say. I'm back in, baby. I am back in. They experimented with some different lineups, but Joe looked good. It was good to see him playing actual basketball games. Nick Nurse did say there's still some boxes for him to check. But one of the lineups, I was watching some highlights, and shout out to Keith Pompey from the Inquirer who wrote about this. There was a lineup with him playing power forward and Adem Bona playing center, and then they ran a 3-guard offense, and I loved it. It just looked good, and I think playing those two together should kind of take some of the pressure, specifically on defense, from Joe. And it just opens up and gives guys more spacing. I'm back in, man. I'm back in. I know this is going to bite me in the ass. Trust me. I know what's going to happen. I do this all the time. I'm back in on the Sixers, man. The East is down. I'm excited. But like I said, Nurse did say there's still some boxes for Joe to check. I'm sure one of the biggest boxes is how he feels this morning and how his knee responds. But I'm in, baby. I am in on the Sixers. You can clip this, and when the inevitable slow starts happens, you can replay it for me. But as of right now, October 13th, 2025, I'm in on this Sixers team. All right, the Eagles. This team has some issues, man. And one of the hardest things, especially when I went golfing on Friday, hanging out with family and friends, and everybody wants to come to me and says, "What's your take on this?" And I don't even know where to start with this Eagles team. I mean, you could do the line. You could do the passing offense. You can do the offensive coordinator. You can do the defense. You can go special teams. I hope they're spending this week soul searching, because the brand of football they played on Thursday night just is not Eagles football and very uncharacteristic. So hopefully they do some soul searching. And I mean, it's everybody. I can't pinpoint one specific unit, one specific player. As Jason Kelsey said, it's the whole team. They need to do some healing and some soul searching this week as they get ready for Minnesota, because you go out to Minnesota, they could get caught very, very easily. So we'll see how the injuries and everything as they start to get back to work tomorrow. But man, they're broken right now. I mean, there's no other way to put it. And the fact that all my Giants fans out there are, I mean, enjoy it. I mean, they're talking their trash. They're puffing their chest out. They're smelling themselves, as well they should. They came in and punched the Eagles in the mouth, and the Eagles didn't have a response, and they repeatedly punched. This to me was, we tend to do this all the time in Philly sports. This was like the first Clubber Lang fight in Rocky 3. There was just no fight whatsoever from this team. Hopefully we can get Apollo, take us out to the West Coast and do some training and get ready for this week and then the inevitable rematch that's happening in 2 weeks. But they need to do some soul searching, and that is what it is. We'll have more on this as we go. Don't forget, programming note, Brotherly Birds Breakdown will be back to its normal time during the Thursday night football game this week. So stay tuned for that. And then the gut punches just continued. Flyers lost over the weekend down in Carolina 4-3 in overtime. Bobby Brink had a goal and an assist and had the apparent game winner in overtime, but it was called back due to goaltender interference. And if you watch the replay, the goalie certainly initiated the contact on this. Flyers got robbed. They got the point, but man, it's just boom. Like, I felt like I was in that Clubber Lang fight this weekend. This whole week, actually. Sam Arison looked good in goal for the Flyers. They have their home opener tonight against the defending champ Florida Panthers. I'm sure Xfinity Mobile Arena is going to be rocking. But Flyers-Panthers tonight as they look for their first win of the season. I will say through 2 games, though, the Flyers are fun again. I talked about this last week on Throwback Thursday, but I want to see effort from them. I want to see them just being fun to watch. And so far through 2 games, they are. And Mishkov hasn't even gotten going yet. Look for him to have a big game tonight. But Flyers robbed over the weekend down in Carolina, losing 4-3 in overtime. And then another gut punch. You guys all know, obviously, if you look around the studio here and based on how I talk, I'm a Temple guy. Always have been, always will be. And man, this football team is good. Casey Keeler has them playing well. But man, they came in as 10-point underdogs to the Navy midshipmen on the 250th anniversary of the Navy. And they were taking it to going toe for toe with Navy. Offensively, they look good. They made some great stops on defense. Unfortunately, a mental breakdown. They gave up a long run as they were trying to close out the game. And then Navy went for 2, and Temple loses 32-31. So yeah, the gut punches continued, but the future is bright for this Temple Owls team under Casey Keeler. And then, of course, the rest of my bets on Saturday crap the bed. My fantasy football teams crapped the bed yesterday, so not a good weekend for your boy over here. Villanova did win. They came from behind to beat Elon 29-21, the number 17th ranked Villanova Wildcats. But the lone bright spot was Villanova on this day, and pains me to even say that. Before we get into what happened this weekend in Philly sports history, I'm a teacher at heart, so I'm going to give everybody a quick geography lesson here. And some of you probably can guess where I'm going with this. However, Penn State University, obviously they fired James Franklin, and as a staunch Penn State hater, not happy about it. I like having James Franklin at Penn State. I'm also a Michigan fan, so in a big game, James Franklin is going to choke, but not anymore. Got paid $49 million to walk away from Penn State. But back to the geography lesson. The center of Penn State University main campus is 193 miles from Center City, Philadelphia. And if you remember the SAT prep questions, if a car leaves this place and that place going this amount, who's going to get there first? The city of Pittsburgh, downtown Pittsburgh, is 137 miles from the center of Penn State's campus. All that to say, if a car leaves Pittsburgh and a car leaves Philly, no traffic, going 65 miles an hour on the turnpike, who's going to get there first? Not the guy from Philly. So Penn State is not a Philly school. Please, I beg all of the national sports reporters and even to sport, obviously it's a big story. There's a lot of Penn State alum everywhere. I get all that. But Penn State is not a Philly school. Can we stop lumping how horrible the week was by putting Penn State's losses in there? I don't care. In fact, I'm kind of happy that Penn State lost just me. So Penn State is not a Philly school. And I know we joke around. We all say Villanova is not a Philly school, blah, 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 blah. That's all tongue in cheek for the most part. Penn State is not a Philly school. It's over 3 hours away, or almost 3 hours away. Relax, people. It is not a Philly school, so that should not be lumping in. In fact, it's one of the few bright spots of the past 2 weeks for me is Penn State losing 2 games and being in a complete chaotic state. So there's your geography lesson today. Penn State is almost 200 miles away from the city of Philadelphia. Not a Philly school. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. All right, what happened this weekend in Philly sports history? On October 11th, we'll go back to 1959 to start. Eagles beat the Steelers 28-24 at Franklin Field. Then NFL commissioner and Eagles founder Burt Bell was in attendance. Unfortunately, suffered a heart attack on the sidelines during the game and passed away. But it was kind of a fitting end to his life, being that he was the founder of the Eagles, he was the NFL commissioner, and at one point was one of the part owners of the Steelers. So he died on the sideline of both of his teams. But Burt Bell passed away, founder of the Eagles, former NFL commissioner, former part owner of the Steelers, passed away on this day in 1959 on the sidelines at Franklin Field. Fast forward to 1983. Gary Maddox and Joe Morgan homered. John Denny allowed 1 run. Cy Young Award winner John Denny. 1 run over 8 2/3 innings as the Phillies beat the Orioles 2-1 to take a 1-0 lead in the World Series. Unfortunately, it would be the high point as the Phillies would lose the next 4 to the Orioles. 10 years later, though, it was Lenny Dykstra with a home run in the top of the 10th as the Phillies beat the Braves 4-3 to take a 3-2 lead, coming back to Philly in the NLCS. And then October 12th, happy anniversary to my wife yesterday, 13 years. We had one hell of a party, and if you were there, it was one hell of a party. But on October 12th, 1980, Gary Maddox doubled in Del Unser in the 10th as the Phillies beat the Astros 8-7 in Game 5 of the NLCS to win the pennant down in Houston. And in 2009, after giving up 3 runs in the bottom of the 8th, Ryan Howard hit a 2-run double. Jason Worth hit a RBI single as the Phillies beat the Rockies 5-4 to win the NLDS. Brad Lidge came in for the save. So back when times were good, as the Phillies move on to the NLCS. And then in 2003, on October 12th, Andy Reid attempted yet again another onside kick to start the game in Dallas. Unfortunately, Bill Parcells had the Cowboys ready for it. Randall Williams picked up the onside kick, took it to 37 yards for a touchdown. 3 seconds into the game, Eagles down 7-0. It was the fastest score in NFL history. And it proved to be the difference as the Eagles lose to the Cowboys on this day, 23-21. And that is Rewind the Weekend, brought to you by Philly Goat. Go to phillygoat.com. Use that promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. Remember to follow me on social media at Philly Jimbo. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont. Continue to spread the word. Like, review, subscribe, comment, all that other good stuff as we try to outsmart the algorithm. And then Friday's trivia question, we were talking about Game 5 of the 2008 World Series. And we know Eric Bruntlett scored the game-winning run. Who knocked him in? Often forgot about, but Pedro Feliz hit the game-winning RBI for the Phils. This day in Philly sports history is proud to be a part of the Clashing Conferences Sports Fan Network, where passionate fans make powerful content. Check out theclashingconferences.com and join the squad today. All right, October 13th. First, we're going to go all the way back to 1915. Phillies pitcher Epa Rixey gave up 2 runs in the 8th and 1 run in the 9th as the Phillies lose Game 5 of the World Series 5-4. Ended up, that was it for the Phils. Red Sox win the World Series. The Phillies wouldn't be back until 1950, but the dream was over today. I wonder if our great-grandparents were getting or I guess for some of us it'd be great-grandparents were feeling the gut punches like we are today. Fast forward to 1974, Roman Gabriel threw for 2 touchdowns. Tom Sullivan ran in 3 for the Eagles as the defense forced 5 turnovers. Eagles win against the Giants 35-7 at the Vet to move their record to 4-1 that year. Unfortunately, it was short-lived as they would lose the next 6 before winning their last 3 to finish the season at 7-7. But the high point of the 74 season came. Roman Gabriel, 2 touchdown passes. Tom Sullivan, 3 rushing touchdowns as the Eagles demolished the Giants 35-7. Excuse me. All right. Then in 1993, Mickey Morandini smashed a ball off of Greg Maddox's shin, forced him to leave the game. But Morandini, Dave Hollins, who hit a homer, and Darren Dawn each had 2 RBI. Tommy Green bounced back and pitched 7 strong innings, giving up 5 hits, 5 strikeouts, and 3 earned runs. Mitch Williams comes in to get the save as the Phillies win Game 6, 6-3, to go to the World Series and get ready to play the Toronto Blue Jays. And then finally in 2008, down 2 in the 8th inning of Game 4 of the NLCS, Shane Victorino, often forgot about in this game, hit a 2-run homer to tie it. 2 batters later, Matt Stairs comes up and hits one into the night to give the Phillies the 7-5 lead. Brad Lidge with the save. Phillies go up 3-1 in the NLCS. They would win it and go to the World Series 2 days later. And this was such a pivotal moment in that series because you go 2-2, and then you have one more game in LA. That was huge, but Victorino and Stairs made the difference as the Phillies go up 3-1 on the Dodgers in the NLCS. All right, it is that time. Every year we get ready for the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony. First Thursday in November. We're going to start our Hall of Fame induction spotlight today, and we're going to start with Alan Lewis, who is winning one of the Legacy of Excellence awards. He was a sports writer, played baseball and football at Haverford College. He was a captain in the Air Force during World War II. He was a Phillies beat writer from 1946 to 1972, served on the Baseball Hall of Fame Veteran Committee, also the chairman of the Major League Baseball scoring chairman. He's known as was known as one of the best rules expert and scoring expert in Major League Baseball. Covered 24 World Series and 10 no-hitters, was the first official scorer for the Tampa Bay Rays, and he did win the Spink Award, which is given to baseball writers, essentially putting them in the writers' wing of the Hall of Fame. But Alan Lewis from the Philadelphia Inquirer, Phillies beat writer for years, one of the expert rules guy in baseball history, is today's Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame 2025 induction spotlight. Alan Lewis winning the Legacy of Excellent Award. 2008, Phillies come from behind to beat the Dodgers, go up 3-1. Shane Victorino and Matt Stairs each hit two-run homers in the eighth. 93, Phillies beat the Braves 6-3 to go to the World Series. Roman Gabriel and Tom Sullivan had themselves good fantasy days in 1974 as the Eagles beat the Giants 35-7, and the Phillies lose the World Series on this day in 1915. Hopefully the Flyers can give us something to cheer about tonight. Need some positivity here in Philly, but we will start gearing up for Eagles-Vikings this Sunday. It's got to get better, right? It has to get better. Maybe? Please? I don't know. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for October 13th, 2025. My name is Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Monday. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.